Uh, this is your Tuesday night DM with Bilbo, me, Bill Hart. But my players have given me the nickname Bilbo many years ago, so might as well just start using that as well on these Tuesday night sessions. I had these on Monday night, but a lot of times when you're running Saturday and Sunday, you kind of need a break from the game for an evening, and just with work and life, it's just too difficult to consistently do this on a Monday evening. So I went ahead and going to run this on Tuesday nights and see how well I do this here. So gonna kind of go through some perspective, some thoughts of my game, some recaps, not giving any stuff away, so you can definitely go watch both my campaigns and see what I'm kind of talking about in this, but more player and more really DM tips than anything. Some player tips, some things here and there about players, but really I'm coming more for the younger DMs out there that, or even old, that are trying to pick up some new tricks or trades, or may have some questions, and it's just some stuff that I've either read or seen on the internet, and just my perspective on stuff. So I took some notes here that I want to kind of reference to, so I don't get too far off the topic here. But the first thing is so both my games. So they're in my world, and that's been the case for years. And now I have two groups. We used to have one group, and now we have two, and that's just the way it is. And so Saturday's group, I have 6 players, and or actually, sorry, let me vice versa this. My Sunday group has 6 players. My Saturday group has 8, and lo and behold, there might be a 9th player joining, which is crazy. And actually, I think it may even get up to 10 this school year, which is absurd. I've ran groups, up to a dozen players, and I mean, they're fun, but they can also be difficult at the same time. You really have to kind of go with what you're comfortable with, and also you have to kind of keep your players in mind to try and make sure that they all get some time in the game. Um, and I mean, that's the thing. I'm not a big fan. I know I see a lot of groups online. I see Skype. People doing Skype or Google Hangouts and so on with these groups. And I've been watching. And a lot of them have 4 players. Some 3, 2, 1. And then there's a couple that do have big groups, like 6, to 8 players. And I think really that's just being comfortable as a DM, what you're comfortable running with. And then also keep in mind your players too. And you may have players leave because the group is so big that they just don't feel like they're getting anything done. And I would say that's happened in our group a little bit too. We've had some players leave just because they weren't getting enough, maybe role playing in, or maybe sometimes they thought there was too much role playing, they want to get more combat in. A little bit of both. So let me kind of go the comparisons really of the two groups. So the one big group, so there's 8 players plus NPCs. So in that group you have 2 NPCs, really 3. Carlane and Slosh. Carlane's a human ranger that has been with the group since the beginning. Was really kind of in the group to, help them through the terrain here. They're all the characters weren't from here except for a dwarf, but he was from the mountains and not familiar with the land that they were going through. Slosh came through. They charmed him, and now befriended the party, and he's been with the party for forever, as long as I can remember now, since adventures way back. Monty is not really necessarily an NPC, but a beast. He's a wyvern, was once a manticore, was charmed, and now is free spirit with the group as well. And now they just picked up 5 barbarians from these Cyclops. Made a deal with the Cyclops to armor these guys up, and so now they have, it's just I think it's total right now of 16 pieces on our board, which is absurd. Um, and and we'll see. But so in that group, I mean, so you have, you have 8 players, all these NPCs. So you have a lot of conflicting situations, which can be interesting role playing for some. I think maybe frustrating for others. Have 8 characters all going in different directions of, what they want to do, what their goals are, what they're looking at as a character, and and so it's tough with 8 players. I mean, it's very tough. Plus the NPCs, you have Carlane, this ranger who's is good, not in the sense of good alignment, but good natured, and he's put up with a lot of junk with this group, has been with, and what they've dealt with. He's also died 3 times in this group and has come back, raised 3 different times. So he's a little even bitter now, and he may be the first to leave this group. He's almost looking for an excuse to leave the group, and then in Slosh, the yang of it. Uh, he's a barbarian, bloodthirsty barbarian, will kill. So, they have. So it's interesting for me, involved. So I have one who's trying to keep the group level-headed sometimes, and you have Slosh is like encouraging, the dwarf, or, and even the cleric, Goliath cleric, and encourage them for battle. So it's definitely, double-edged sword there, with the group being that size and so on. And then my other group is 6 players. They have no NPCs with the group, and I don't see any NPCs coming along with that group anytime soon. And it's a group where there's 2 elves, 2 dwarves, a human, and a halfling. And the group dynamics work really well. The teamwork works super well, and it's a lot of fun to run. And both groups are fun to run. As a DM, I probably have to be a little bit more patient with a group of 8, and also as a DM, I'm trying to make sure that they are actually getting done what they, what they're trying to set out for. So it's a little bit more difficult there. Um, Other things here is, how does, these groups affect encounters? And this is a huge thing with this group of like 16. I mean, that's, you're talking, a squad out there adventuring. I mean, and that is crazy. So a lot of encounters aren't going to approach that group unless they're tough usually, um, because of that. And then also in the sense, the levels of the characters. Um, it can, it's usually the encounters that they're running across are very tough, and sometimes they're even tougher than the group. And luckily, the group's actually pretty smart to have been able to negotiate all out of that. I wouldn't just kill the group. Um, Not necessarily, unless, they really mess with something. But the big bad guys that I've kind of introduced to them, uh, they've managed to talk their way out of situations. Sooner or later, something's going to come along and go after them, and there won't be any talking. And it'll be interesting to see how they react, if they actually flee or they're just overconfident and try to kill it. But at this time, I don't see that overconfidence with this group, almost in the sense of underconfidence, in the sense that's why we just, there's so many NPCs in the group. Like I said, right now there's 8 in the group, and NPCs, uh, and that's half the group. And so it's a little interesting there with the 6 players. a lot easier in a sense encounters. Not to be huge encounters. Um, and just from the sense behind the DM screen, a couple of things that I did. So there's an encounter this Sunday with my Ganar group that we ran, and I basically took the Helmed Horror and just made a dwarven version of it, lessened it, made it weaker than what they had in the book, and put four of them in the room. And now the whole thing is a trapped room. If the two dwarves, which was great. I created this adventure before I even knew there were going to be dwarves in the group. But there's a couple of secret doors that only the dwarves could detect, and only the dwarves could open. You have to speak dwarven, and the thing is, now they can know this because it's over. It had to be spoken from a dwarf, and so the group went into this room, and sure enough, there's these helmed horrors, these statues. They're stone statues of dwarves. And as long as just dwarves are in there, they wouldn't do anything. And they could have went in there, got the loot from the room, and that would have been fine. But a little investigation by two of the dwarves, the two dwarves that were in there, they're investigating the room, and one of the elves was like, "Well, if they haven't blown up by now, it should be sailing fine." Sure enough, he goes in the room, he activates one, he decides to keep moving in the room, activates another, and smartly then decides to run out of the room. So he only activated two. If they would have activated all four, it would have probably been a very hairy and scary encounter. But instead, they were successful. I mean, these two helmed horrors, dwarven helmed horrors, just chased after the two elves and the one human as the halfling in the corner cast spells. It was quite the entertaining session. It was a lot of fun, but just modifying the hit points. With the bigger group, a lot of times I have to up the hit point, maybe up the attacks, and the encounter. So I wanted to have an encounter. The guys, we're wanting to have an encounter. My son plays football in Canada, and he's actually bringing back up to school this weekend, so we won't have any games going on this weekend. But he wanted to get one more encounter, roll those dice live with us before he goes on up there. Not sure how many sessions he'll be able to Skype in with us when he's up in Canada, but hopefully he gets some in. And anyways, so I, had an orc encounter, set. But time wise, we started late, our session started late, and I was on a deadline when I told the wife, hey, we're going to be done by this. I'll start grilling at this time. And DMs out there, future DMs, if you're married or when you get married, do not piss the wife off because of gaming. Just trust me on that one. Anyway, so I had a cutoff time. So I made these orcs not as tough as I want to make them, or wanted to make them, but I wanted them to get this encounter over and then be on their way. And so there, I just I made their hit points 20, which is normal in the book. It's just 15, so I just upped it by 5 and it seemed fine. I felt like I was rushing as a DM at the end. My players don't think so. So, I mean, at least that's good. But internally, I was like, oh, I'm rushing this. I don't like this. And I'm trying to get this encounter done before I have to just stop. And I don't like stopping in the sense of the middle of encounter unless absolutely have to, or it's a big encounter. It's, a major boss or something, then we're going to cut it short. So, those are, a couple of differences there. With the 6 players, I can make encounters a little weaker for them, and it's still challenging. With the 8 players and the 8 NPCs, there I have to make the encounters much more tougher, more difficult to get through, and they're dangerous. I mean, these heavy hitters, and that's on both sides. A crit here and you're in trouble. When I had a character get crit 3 times, a couple sessions ago, and that, I mean, we're like, oh my god, this character going to go down. Um, so that's, one thing. Then experience, how does that affect? So 6 players, well, that experience is divvied out within, combat. I give experience for role playing, combat, laughter at the table, great ideas, anything like that. I'm giving experience for, but also combat. And with a group of 6 players, they're going to get more experience. They're going up levels. In fact, that whole group now is 4th level, and I think I'm trying to think. We're on their 6th session or something like that, I think. But they all just went to 4th level. One, the dwarven leaders in the group, the dwarven wizard. He's borderline. He's getting close to 5th. Maybe another session he'll be 5th. But the rest are all 4th level and on their way to 5th. Versus my other group, you have characters ranging anywhere from 10th to 3rd to 10th level there. And that experience gets divided by that whole group, and I include those NPCs. Because those NPCs, also count in the sense of that's, how I make the encounter, and they should also be in an experience as well. They're part of it. And so it slows the progression of that group down big time. The younger characters in the group, the newer characters, now they have advanced. One's, I think, one went to 4th level. I think the other one did this after the session. I still finishing experience for that group, but I'm pretty sure he'll be 4th level too. But then now all the other guys, they're basically where they're at. Maybe a while before they go up. I mean, I have some big encounters, some huge major stories for that group. Um, so I'm hoping that the experience will match the story, but I worry about that because of such a large group and how that's going to affect the bottom line of the experience. So those are things as a DM you have to think about, you worry about, um, and then the other thing is I've noticed with the one thing I just kind of want to talk about is like planning versus, or maybe over planning, versus just going with. That's that's also affects experience. My big group, they planned a couple major encounters, and like then this is where I say maybe the underconfidence comes in, where they've just planned and planned and planned so much. That yeah, they're successful. They've been successful the last couple with perfect plans, perfect success. But then you're not getting as much of experience either. If you spend 8 hours planning before we even play the game, and and nothing's spontaneous, well, I'm not going to give you, as much experience. So, if it's spontaneous, you do something to save a character or save characters on the moment where you just think, oh, that's and help them out, then you're going to be rewarded for it. But if you plan and go, well, this is how I'm going to help the group, I can do this spell and have this set up, well, then it takes away the spontaneity. Yep, you'll save the group. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're living, your group's all living, you're successful as a group. Um, but I don't know if that takes part of the joy away from the group. Maybe they're having a lot of fun just doing the planning, but I don't think they are. I think it's even become more of a burden with some of them. But what they're doing is what they're doing, and that's kind of their choice. Versus the 6 player group, they're going by the seat of their pants. They haven't planned anything, but it's amazing the teamwork. Please go watch. I wish a week ago, one of my recordings, we couldn't hear the guys that were Skyped in, and I wish it was, because it was great teamwork between, and the banter between the dwarves and the elves in that group is just great. And so there's really good role playing in that group. There's, great teamwork within that group and the banter because of the dwarves and elves, but they're working together really well. But, throw jibs and jibes at each other all the time. So it's very entertaining as a DM. I'm having a great time DMing. I have a good time DMing the other group. But I know in the sense, okay, yep, they planned this. Yep, that's going to work. Okay, yep, you're going to do this step next. Okay, yep, sure, that's perfectly going to work. But it takes away that, that what if. What are the guys going to do? What are they going to think up? Um, I'm not in awe. I'm like, yeah, yep, I thought you guys would be successful with this plan. It's perfect. But they're limiting themselves. They're basically hamstringing themselves, especially with experience doing it that way. Um, and and they don't have all the guys planning either. It's a select few of them that seem to be planning because maybe I know some of the other players just don't want to plan for that much time. So those are those kind of things out there. And I just have kind of one other thing that I've seen online, and this is advice. This is advice for a new DM out there, and maybe some older DMs out there as well. Um, but I was watching a YouTube video, D&D session, and I'm not going to say what group it is. But they're playing, and the player was making a roll to do a grapple, and it was be an opposed grapple from the thing he was trying to grapple with. And the character rolled low. I think it was maybe a 10 or something or a 12, but it was a low roll. And then the DM rolled, and I could hear the hesitation, like he didn't want to give out the number. And even his own players called him and called him out and said, "Don't fudge the roll." And so right there to me is like, okay, they even have a history where the DM has fudged some rolls for them. Don't fudge rolls. Do not fudge rolls. Have the rolls as they are. I know some DMs openly roll everything. Others, roll behind the screen. I do both. It depends on the setting, how I have things set up. Um, my players can freely look over, and a lot of times I have a couple players on each of my sides, and they may see their roles. And even if everything was behind my screen, I know I've built that trust over years. I'm not fudging rolls. If I hit, I hit. If I miss, I miss. If I succeed a saving throw or miss a saving throw, I'm just the neutral guy there rolling dice, coming up with just story ideas and the adventures and trying to keep the guys off the balance. But I want to succeed. I want my group to succeed. I want them to win. I want them to be successful every encounter. And some encounters are learning encounters are not necessarily to be a success. Um, but I never try to kill my group. I always worry about, and I haven't had to worry about like a total party except for my group of six thing adventure where it just seemed like when they were fighting the boss and some of his bad guys that it was going to go bad. The group had some bad rolls and I had some okay rolls. Looked like, oh, we could lose this whole group here, but it prevailed. They turned and they ended up winning the fight. Now, with that being said, don't fudge your will respect you in the end. If you kill a character, you kill a character, and they'll respect you. You have to have some sort of loss. It's a game, Not everybody wins at a game. And at least for me growing up, I am that mentality. Don't give everybody. Johnny doesn't get a ribbon for coming in last. I'm sorry. I just don't believe that. And that's kind of how I run. So with that being said, yeah, please stay away from fudging rolls. Like if the encounter is too tough, okay, maybe make the hit points down a little less for for the group. So if you're fighting a monster that has 60 hit points, and you know that's just too tough for the group, lower the hit points to 30. You know, if it's too easy of encounter and you want to get off a special ability, I know a DM out there that's done that. He said he has openly said that, you know, online, that he wants to get off a special ability or a spell of a bad guy. He just wants one more shot. And to me, that's fine too. So he lets him live for one more round and gets that off, and then has the character dramatically kill him. I think that's fine too. I agree with both. Lower hit points if the encounter seems too tough, or raise the hit points a little bit so that encounter can live one more round if you're trying to get something off. Now, if you're just trying to kill a character, no, don't. That doesn't make any sense. But if it's something for the story or the game that you wanted to show this one special ability off, you know and as long as it's well, hopefully it doesn't kill the party or kill a character, um, then do it. Then let him get killed the next round. I think either way is fine, and you have to find your way as a DM or what you want to do. But don't fudge rolls. Don't cheat. Don't cheat for your players. Players don't cheat. As your DM. If you mess up on something or a score, or maybe he missed something, just tell him, hey, I noticed you missed this. They appreciate it a lot more. I definitely have a player. I'd respect the player a lot more saying, hey, do you know that you missed this ability? And I'm like, yeah, I forgot about it. And DMs do it all the time. We're juggling so many things. Sometimes I just forget. I have it written down. Sometimes highlighted, underlined. Okay, don't forget to do this. And then you just get caught up in the moment and you forget. And after the encounter, you're like, oh, yeah, that would have been a little different if I would have, gotten that, the flame strike off. Oh, I forgot I was going to use that right away. So um, let that, be as it is, but just don't cheat. Don't fudge your rolls. That's the one thing. Your players will respect you in the end for it. If you fudge your rolls, your players know you're fudging rolls. They're gonna go like, well, should we have really beat this encounter? Or in a sense, wow, you killed all of us. That would be the worst. Next thing you know, you don't have any players. So I just kind of wanted to, get that one off my chest because I just recently seen it this week online, and I was like, why is he fudging a roll? I mean, it's just it was just a grappling thing. It wasn't in the sense he was going to kill the character, wasn't going to kill him, or vice versa. It was nothing like that. It just was a grapple check. So what if the character failed at the grapple check? Just let it be, and your players would have respected. But even the players knew that he fudged the roll and let the character be successful there. So don't do that. Don't fudge rolls. Your guys will respect you a lot more. With that being said, you have a great evening. DMs, get out there and DM. It's a lot of fun. And this is Bilbo signing out. And please remember, it's cool to be a geek. Pass it on.